Elvis, I'll start off with you. GRA has engaged the oil marketers and decided to postpone the implementation or the rollout of the 1 cedi fuel levy. Now, one will wonder why these engagements have not been held even prior to presenting the amendment of the bill to Parliament and the passage of same. We know that the President has gone ahead to assent or append a signature to the same bill. But it looks clearly there were no engagements. The transport operators are also up in arms with the same issue.
Well, it only tells you that financial government is desperate to actually raise this money. Somebody asked me why that the government didn't do consultation before even introducing the levy. And I said, if government does consultation, what happened to e-levy will happen to this.
Yeah.
Because the moment you attempt to do consultation, all kinds of proposals, agitations will begin to come, which will force government to rethink. That was exactly what happened to you. So when the people raised the issue, e-levy couldn't meet East Target. I said no. If the MPP had the numbers like NDC has today, and they forced through e-levy immediately, and there were no protesters to reduce this and exempt this and all that, they would have achieved their target about how much they wanted to raise. The issue is that once you want to do consultations, ideas will come, resistance will come, protests will come, things will happen. That will force government to what? To reduce the levy or not even implement it at all, because if they look at the political implications of people protesting and agitations, they may not. So it was clear that if they had wanted to do consultations, it wouldn't have been easy for the government. However, now that it has been passed, the implementation stage, at least they could have done some consultation. However, they didn't do their consultations. From my understanding, or what I think happened, was that two things could have happened. First of all, yes, government is desperately in need of the money, so they want to start collecting it immediately. So government wants quickly to start collecting that money, because if it has started today, on my way here I bought fuel, it meant that I would have immediately paid something to government immediately. So by the end of the month, government would know that it has raised this amount of money. So government is desperately in need. Secondly, though, I suspect that probably, I don't know, but I think GRA new bosses may have assumed that since the OMCs are already collecting the energy sector levy, existing one, they may have assumed that it's just an add-on. But what they forget is that the OMCs will now have to recalibrate their systems to factor in the new 1 Ghana cedi, which doesn't take a day or two. Because when did the president assent to the bill? Just about, is it Thursday or Wednesday or Thursday?
Yes, I think on Thursday.
It will take the OMC some time to recalibrate all their systems to include the new 1 Ghana cedi. So if GRA had assumed, that is what I'm thinking, that because they are already collecting the 49 pesos and other levies for them, it is just an issue of adding on. That will be coming from a position of lack of understanding of how the OMC systems work and how systems have to be calibrated. But see, the bottom line, as I said, is that it only sends a message that government is desperately in need of revenue. And as we have been told, this money we are looking for, we are just looking at how to buy fuel for the generation set, and then probably how to pay the debt. And even if you need, according to the minister, $1.1 billion to buy fuel just for the generation sets in a year. Even if the cedi is $1 to 10 cedis, it will mean that the government would need at least 10 billion cedis to be able to buy fuel for the generation set. So if the new levy is even going to generate 5.7 billion, it meant that even buying fuel alone for the generation set, there's still a huge shortfall there. If the target is to just buy fuel even for the generation set, it meant that there's still a huge target, because then the new tax is going to meet only about half. Only about half of the fuel needs that the minister has told us that we need money to import. So clearly, the energy sector debt, which is the major and the biggest problem for the economy, is not going away anytime soon. Because then there's already a legacy debt to be paid. Capacity charges will keep piling up.
Yeah.
So there's a whole lot of issues. ECG's inefficiencies are yet to be addressed because government is not investing any money into the asset.
Yeah.
And until government retools ECG, completely change all their old equipment, the efficiency we are looking for from ECG may not be achieved easily. It requires a lot of money for investment.
Yeah.
If you look at the PDS deal, ECG needs not less than $1 billion of investment. That's why within the 5 years period, aside what the US compact was giving us, the PDS which took over was supposed to do additional investment into ECG in order to make it efficient. So there are issues in the energy sector, and this 1 CD increment, though painful, it's still not enough to solve the problems of the energy sector.
Yeah.
And that is why the communication around this whole thing needs to be handled very well. Exactly. Because when you create the impression as if the 1 CD is going to solve the going to solve the energy sector problems, and people pay, and then tomorrow they still have those issues around.
Exactly.
And then now you want to come and give a different excuse, you are going to be in a serious problem. And this government should learn from Levy. When Levy was coming and there was protest, there were all kinds of statements from various government functionaries. It will clear this number of jobs. It will solve that. It will solve that. When finally it was passed, and those problems were still with that, people said, then why was the Levy passed? Because these were the statements you people made. And the public started referring the public officials to the statement they made when Levy was to be introduced. So I would advise the government that, look, they should just tone down. They should just tell the public that, well, this money is even just about half of the money we need in a year to buy fuel for thermal power plants to generate power. So even saying that we'll have enough fuel just to cure Dumso automatically is not even guaranteed, let alone the outstanding legacy debt of, according to the minister, over $3 billion is still there. Where do you get money to pay? TOR is there. We started paying TOR debt recovery levy under President Kufuor. President Kufuor left office in 2008. Today is 2025. How many years now have you repaid TOR debt recovery levy? But go to TOR right now. There's a huge debt on TOR's books. So when things are introduced and given specific names, if it fails to achieve that expected result, you now give the public and your opponents the opportunity now to come at you. That this is what you said when you forced us to pay this. Now that we have paid and we still have the problems lingering around, what justification there do you have? And you see, the government needs to, as I said, their communication needs to be very light and toned down. Because you see, you are bringing this tax after all the promises that the finance minister, we don't need more taxes to run the economy and all that. We are going to have more taxes. The reason is simple. As I said, it's been established that when we collect all the money in this country, we pay statutory funds, we pay interest on our loans, and then we pay salaries. Almost all the money we collect in this country is finished. So if that is the situation, question is, all the promises in the NDC manifesto that the government wants to roll out, where are you going to get money to roll them out? If only these 3 items are going to take almost 70-80% of the money we are collecting, let's say even it takes 50% of the money, where are you going to manage to do roads? Where are you going to build hospitals? Where are you going to get money to provide water, extension of electricity, and all that is used for the people? That's why I've said that if politicians will communicate and let us understand that Ghana, these problems we have, maybe we need $100 or $300 billion to be able even to bring us up a little. So let's all prepare and make sure that we don't have too high expectations of the politician. And the public's mind is that, okay, we now know that our problems are not immediately going to vanish under 4 or 8 years rule of any government.
So the communication should be in a way that it will condition the money.
Exactly. If you are told the public that even this money you are bringing, it's going to generate only, assuming you get even the 5.7, it's going to be only half of the money you need to buy fuel. Just for fuel alone.
Not even the debt.
Not even the debt. That is, and therefore, the expectation that Dumso will vanish all of a sudden will clear the debt in the sector, and then the sector will all of a sudden be debt free, ECG will become efficient. it is not the case. Then the public is conditioned to understand that, oh, even what we are paying will only be provide half of the fuel we need for Domso. So it means that we shouldn't expect that all the problems that we are facing, especially in terms of Domso or energy sector, will vanish overnight.
Right.
Then the public is more conditioned. But when it's more like when you even raise some of this issue, then the party people are attacking you.
Exactly.
Why are you saying this? The previous government, did you say that? I said, no, they voted the previous government out because public believe that the way they're handling things, they are not satisfied. Why do you want them to be comparing yourself to previous government?
Very obvious. Thank you. Ibrahim, I mean, clearly, if a new levy is being introduced, there should be some proper timelines for implementation, especially a levy such as this. I mean, there are players or regulators in this industry that would need to, like Elvis says, recalibrate, reconfigure, and all that. It's as though that has not happened yet. However, if you look at the figures that have been thrown out there, how important is it that we're giving a timeline for implementation? If this is to address costs of purchasing fuel for power generation, cost of settling energy sector debts, should we have a timeline for implementation, or should it be a perpetual levy?
Well, let me unpack what you just said.
Very well.
Should it be a perpetual levy? The answer is no. That's firstly, and let me address that. Why do I say no? Government or leadership really, Nana Tufo, needs to understand the dynamics of managing an economy. Well, if you go to the old playbook of I'm having a shortfall, so let me tax you to solve that shortfall, it's cause 90. It doesn't achieve anything. Why do I say so? Because what will happen is that you will increase inflation, and then inflation itself will become a big, how do you call it, anchor or chain and ball on the economy. So it cannot work well, because we know how what inflation does. It reduces productivity. When prices go up, people buy less. If people buy less, manufacturers then produce less. If they produce less, they lay off more people, so unemployment spikes, food prices spike, and all the, it's like a domino effect.
Right.
So there shouldn't be a perpetual levy. You need to understand, and this is my message to the NDC, you need to understand the workings of an economy, and seek to see how you can provide or create activities that will generate revenue that you can then legitimately tax. But let me go back to what I wanted to say initially, Nana Tufo.
Sure.
Here, there's legacy debts and what have you. The question any layman would ask you in Ghana, now who calls them? How did we get here? Sure, before ESLA, the Energy Sector Levy Act. Introduced when? December 2015. Who introduced it?
John Mahama.
John Mahama. He introduced this levy in order to cure shortfalls within the oil sector. Because sometimes the market price is X, but the pump price is Y. And government has to pay, what do you call it? The fuel contractors and banks to cover the shortfall. So then they introduced this ESLA, Energy Sector Levy Act, in December 2015. So we started collecting it from 2016. Now, look at how we got there. You signed, by you, I'm talking John Dramani Mahama, the president, then and now and then. 43 IPPs, that's independent power producers, on a take or pay. Because they had mismanaged the sector so long. We had 5 years of Dumso, and there was like, we need people to come and produce electricity, create, add to the energy mix. So Charlie, it doesn't matter. Let's sign them. 43 contracts. On the case of take or pay. Charlie, just build it. I may not use it, but I will pay you for it. It's like this tea that I've got here. Whether I drink it or not, I'm going to pay for it. And you're not actually, how can I call it, building a clear plan of action to solve the energy crisis. Now, what is the cost of that take and pay? It started with 300, and I want Ghanaians to listen to me very well, $320 million of money that we pay to these producers
for power not used.
For power not used. We are just giving it away. Are you picking up what I'm putting down? Nana? You're picking up what I'm putting down. Good. Then it went up to $500 million.
From 320.
Yes, up to 600 million. Who calls them? John Dramani Mahama. Their merry deal.
Yeah.
I'm citing that one there. Yes, I know NDC, MPP want to renegotiate it.
Yeah.
We'll leave that for another discussion. $510 million. Every expert said that was twice the amount. Twice the amount.
Yeah.
So why am I mentioning corruption day inside?
Right.
The Sankofa ENI deal was one of the largest gas deals, the most expensive ones John Dramani Mahama signed. So while we are talking, and I like how Elvis is mentioned, these are the reasons why we got here, or you know, this levy won't work. Beyond that, who caused them? And these are the critical questions we have to ask before we get to the solutions. Because you created this legacy for us. I'm talking John Dramani Mahama. You couldn't solve the doomsaw, and then you were in a panicky situation, quickly got people to produce on a take or pay basis. And we are paying for it up until now.
Brought the ESLA,
Yes.
and then Akufo-Addo collateralized it.
Yes, you collateralize it so that the revenues collected could be used to then secure loans. Because you know that over the period you're collecting money. So that's your collateral. I know that in 3 years I'm going to collect X amount. So we were then borrowing money against that collateral. Again, thinking outside of the box.
And when we borrowed the money,
Yeah.
for what purpose? What was that money borrowed used for?
Well,
because if the ESLA was set up for a specific function,
Yes.
and we decide to collateralize the ESLA,
Yes.
it should be, the loans contracted should be relative to the original purpose.
You're
of
100%
the
right. Because what were the reasons? The idea is to make sure that you can then cure the legacy debt, okay? Add to the infrastructure as well. So because when you can make sure that energy-wise, infrastructure-wise is properly secured in terms of investment, then you don't have the panicky situation that we had during the Dramani Mahama years. That's why you had an addition to our energy mix in terms of solar, in terms of thermal. So those monies were used to actually add value to our power generation and the energy mix as a whole. So while you're collecting, you're not just collecting money to pay for it. It's like you borrow money from a bank. You use that bank to do what? To build business, your business. You're still paying the loan, but that business will yield revenue that in time, if properly used, will then it will blossom so that now beyond paying the debt, you're also adding revenue. Are you following me?
Yeah, but was the ESLA used for projects that will generate revenue?
That I
was
can't
used for
speak
consumption projects.
That primarily, as I understand it, it was used to defray costs. But you know that the costs continue to spiral.
They'll pile up.
And why did it spiral? It spiraled up because, again, exchange rate mechanisms. Every 2 weeks, you have the bi-weekly meeting. I'm talking the IPPs, the banks, fuel suppliers, together with government and OMCs, all marketing companies, and then, of course, you have the BDCs. The bulk. They all meet every 2 weeks and agree upon the price that they should negotiate upon. Am I right? For the following 2 weeks. Now, exchange rate mechanisms is a major factor in that. And we saw how, under the MPP, admittedly, the exchange rate went from around 5 or so, all the way to 16 and nearly 17 to a point. Now, John Jinapa, Honorable Minister for Energy. I wanted to latch on to something Elvis said about the consultation. That had they done consultation, you know, they would have the same problems as e-levy, per Elvis's submission. Go to Daily Graphic online. I'm giving the source. Honorable John Jinapa, said that they had consulted widely. That's what he said. In terms of this one levy. Now, then you have the coalition of all marketing companies?
COMAC.
Mr. COMAC. Mr. Opong said there was no consultation. They received a document on the 5th of June, a holiday, saying that by Sunday, which is yesterday, there needs to be this increase. Where is the consultation? So John Jinapa, Honorable, needs to come again. Because, as Elvis rightly said, there's no consultation. They didn't consult anybody. And the key stakeholder said, you didn't even talk to us. And when you talked to us, you sent us a letter on Eid al-Adha, a holiday. You know, and I think there were some talks yesterday. Now they've extended it to June the 16th. Am I right? In order to do that. But it all comes down to why has the government mismanaged, tricked, lied to the Ghanaian public. And for those who want to do politics with this, you are at liberty to do it. When the MPP does something that is wrong, I will say it. And likewise, if you are an NDC supporter, beyond that, you are Ghanaian. Do not keep quiet. And so my party is in power. And yes, because at the end of the month, when you don't have either power, because we're not solving the Doomsday issue, or your salary or your income, your revenue is down, that kind of blind loyalty will not do you any good. And the same goes with the MPP as well. Are you following me?
Right.
We need to be critical of government and not somehow fall into the trap that it's my party in power or it's or the other parties in opposition. Or you get me?
Yeah.
So that you somehow we polish the talk.
Yeah.
As Ghanaians, we need to somehow disabuse our minds and say, look, this is wrong. We can win the election on so many points, and you can lose the election on so many points. But when it's the national interest, where you and I are concerned, put your party aside and tackle the issue. If it's to the credit of the government, give it. The exchange rate is now worked in Ghana's favor. Am I right? Who's in charge now? NDC. So let's give him that credit.
Right.
Let's give him that credit. Likewise, what's going to happen now with this one city levy? Already there's a strike coming tomorrow. I know we'll discuss it in a minute.
Yeah.
Secondly, regardless of what GPRTU does, those who transport the cocoyam, the plantain, the tomatoes from the hinterlands, from the farm to the markets, they don't belong to GPRTU. Once they know that prices have gone up, they will increase their prices.
True.
And this fallacy that Honorable Atoforson is saying that what has happened is this increase will not be reflected at the pump. It's now in the region of 12 cities, 99, from 14.99 in January to now 12 cities, 12.50, thereabouts. He's saying that this increase won't be reflected. You won't see it. I beg to differ. How much is Kinke today, even with the city appreciation? It's still 4 cities, 5 cities. I'm talking Teshin Lejokuku, where I'm from.
Yeah.
Okay? Go to Osu. And I want people to call in. Because if I say in some parts of Accra, it's 7 cities, you say, Brian Womale, you're lying.
Yeah. Oh, in Dansuman, I have a Kinke joint. There's 7 cities Kinke. It's between 5 and 7.
Midasi. Midabushi. Right. Do you understand me? How do we get here? Because in December 2024, and Kinke is one of the barometers we use to know whether you are going or coming. Economically.
Yeah, true.
Are you following me?
Right.
So this is what needs to be cured. I'm hoping you can give me maybe 1 more minute, I beg you, on this topic.
Briefly, yeah.
Government, I'm talking to NDC specifically.
Yeah.
Reimagine how you lead. Forgive me if I'm shouting. It's a passionate issue.
Right.
Right now, you know, I always try to add value to a conversation. We have a problem. So I don't want to say, John Mama, you've messed up, you've goofed. You're back to the old playbook. Tax and spend and then put us more into doomsday. I don't want to go to that tangent. I want to give something. How can they solve this $5.7 billion? Am I right? Cities. Shortfall.
Yeah.
Good.
That's what this levy is expected to generate.
Yes.
Yeah.
But they need over one.
They need over,
About.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a shortfall of about 4.3 billion.
So how can you think critically? I want to send John Mahama an idea.
Right.
You can take it or leave it. We have right now, within the system, 5 million electricity meters operating. 5 million.
5 million.
5 million. Google it and see. It's 4.9 million. Okay? Of which around 4,020,000 are operational. Where did I get the figure from? ECG.
Right.
Because they charge and say, okay, this meter's paid.
Yeah.
4 million.
Yeah.
That means we have, let's say, 4 million households. Am I right? Presently, 4 million households. Presently in Ghana, 47.7% of households are rented.
Okay.
Rented. Okay? That's, so you have around 2 million households renting. But I want to get back to the solution I'm giving to John Dramani Mahama. You have 4 million meters, which then alludes to Activo by ECG.
Yeah.
That means people are spending.
Exactly.
That means people are living there.
Yeah.
Good. 4 million. Now, 4 million means property rates. Am I right?
Yeah.
Property rates. Let me explain to you what I'm saying. Honorable Mordecai former MCE at Lejo Kuku. In 2024,
Mordecai
Kwashi. In 2024, he sent out bills worth 43 million cedis for property rate to collect. He only received 2 million.
Right.
Out of the 43 that he billed, only 2 million were paid. And that is replicated across Ghana. Unless you go to Klote Kole, where they've actually increased revenue by 1,025%, they collected 12 million cedis just this quarter because they do a digital payment plan. But I want to be short on my suggestion to His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, the President. You have 4, are you picking up what I'm putting down? 4 million meters in the system. That means 4 million properties. Property rates are never collected properly.
Right.
It's just that we talk and we don't act. 4 million on average, it's around 900 cedis per year. Per year. And I say on average because companies don't pay 900 cedis property tax. They pay in the millions or the thousands.
Yeah.
But I'm just giving you a figure.
Yeah. So you think property tax is the way to go?
So you do, as one example, 4 million times 900. Okay? Now, what you do, okay? You want to do that for me? 4 million times 900?
Real quick. We can
9 4 is 36. So you're looking at what?
Yeah.
Yeah? You did what I'm doing. 9 times 4 is 36. Anyway. So 900 times 4 million. What figure you get?
Somewhere around 3.6 billion.
3.6 billion. What were we having? 5 billion.
5.7.
Good. 3.6. Am I right?
Yeah.
And how do you do it? You know the property rate added to my electricity bill. When we pay the light bill, you know the street lights.
Yeah.
Do they come and say light? They just add it to your bill.
Yeah.
It's captured.
Yeah.
Am I right?
So we should add on to that.
You add it.
But then again, that will be another increase, right?
It's not
already
an increase.
The tariffs have been
already you have to pay it.
7.
I'm coming Nana to 4. We have to pay property tax. It's just that we fail to collect it. It's not an increase.
Yeah.
It's making sure you can actually capture it. Don't we pay roadworthy?
Yeah.
So if DVLA do not capture it, is it an increase? I have to pay. But DVLA have made sure that there's deterrence. The police are on the road, they see your car without the sticker, they stop you, and you make sure you pay. So they're not 3.6 billion.
Yeah.
And you add it. Now, what happens when I get my bill? When I pay my prepaid, you don't take the 900 at one go. Every month, take maybe 20 Ghana. In addition to my bill is 100 cedis.
Yeah.
But 20 cedis of my bill will go to property rate. I've paid 80 of my bill, and so on. So over the year, you won't even feel it. Do you feel it when they say you're paying the street light?
No.
As far as you're concerned, it's part of your.
It's embedded in there.
It's embedded.
Yeah.
So you embed it and you take it few, small. That's the idea. John Dramani Mahama, Your Excellency. 3.6 billion Ghana cedis is there for you. Likewise, my last point.
I need to hear from Elvis on solutions.
I beg you.
Yeah.
I beg you. I beg 45 seconds.
Yeah.
You can time me. The other one is tax, rental tax.
Yeah.
When you rent your property, now I mentioned to you earlier, 2.7 million households are rented. Ask Honorable Ato Forson how much rent, tax does he get from landlords? I doubt if he gets 10 cedis a year. I'm being facetious. How can you cure that? You do a policy that when you are renting or you are leasing your property, the payment has to be done through a government portal. You are my landlord.
Right.
I don't have to pay you tax. You register with the Ministry of Finance that you have property you're leasing. They will give you a Momo number directed to you. I will then pay my rent to that Momo number. I don't pay you directly. I will pay you, and government will capture the contract. Nana Tufo as least 1-bedroom apartment to Ibrahim J. Because by law you have to. If
And the landlord does what, takes his money from government?
No. Government will give you apply for a permit to rent your property.
Yeah.
Government will give you that permit. Linked to that permit is a Momo number.
Right.
Separate to your number, so there's no confusion.
Right.
Okay? So now I'm leasing your property. I owe you 1,000 cedis for this month's rent.
Yeah.
I pay into that Momo account. Okay? Government will see that transaction and remove the 15%. Do you get me?
I get you.
Are you following me?
It will be passed on, right?
Rent, by law, you have to pay tax on your rent. You're a landlord. You can't just get your rent free. Because government is paying for the roads and the lighting and the police and the water. Everything that government does for the property that you are leasing. you have to contribute.
So we're still talking tax. No one is looking at addressing the inefficiencies.
No, I'm coming. You see, when you do this,
has collection losses.
Sure, which is why I'm removing the middleman. Because right now, when you do this task force, you know, within your constituency, they get in the truck, Ford truck, they go around with the bill, Charlie, this is your property rate, pay the money. What happens? They goes in their pockets. So I'm just giving some ideas beyond the criticism that I'm giving to government, and it's necessary we critique. I'm also giving ideas, whereby if you do those 2.27 million people, okay, and again, let's say the average tax, average rent in a year, for argument's sake, is 2,000 Ghana a year, okay. Then you take your 15% from that. It's over 7 billion, more than. When I calculate, around 12 billion Ghana. Just that portion, 12 billion plus the 3 billion we just calculated. That's 15 billion cedis. John Dramani Mahama, it's free advice. Don't say I'm MPP.
Thank you.
I'm Ghanaian. So I'm just giving some ideas, and I'm sure there are others who have better ideas than me. But within this space, you can create the necessary capture of revenue that can defray, and then you don't put the burden on the Ghanaians at the pump.
Very well, Ibrahim. Thank you so much. Elvis, I mean, Ibrahim is giving us solutions. The finance minister promised us innovative ways to raise revenue and not necessarily tax. But challenge, and we need to address it. I mean, how innovative can we be in solving these energy sector challenges?
Okay, before I come to the raise issue of collateralization, see, when you demonize collateralization, you will struggle to rule. Because you see, it's a revenue that will come. But you want to solve them so. It's a matter of fuel. It's only when we buy the fuel that you get the money. So if we don't buy the fuel, we should be sleeping in darkness. No. So if you collateralize, you get the money ahead of time so that we don't sleep in doom. So and then when we buy the fuel, you go and pay back. So collateralizing revenues, it's not really a bad thing. But for political reasons, we have made collateralization look like it's a demon. It is not. If you look at free SHS and how previous government to solve the accommodation problems to a level, if not that they are collateral get fund and got money up front to be able to put up structures, by now a lot of kids will soon have places to eat, a dining hall, they will not get place to sleep. So when we create the impression as if collateralizing a demon, then we are going to struggle because you don't have the revenue. You can't wait for the revenue to come before you solve a problem. Then your problem solving will take a longer time.
Exactly.
So let's not demonize collateralization. The minister today, who was attacking the previous government for collateralization, when he got to vetting and was asked, he said that he also referenced the energy sector levies, EXLA, which had raised approximately 45 billion over the years from 2016 to 2014. He noted that while these funds had been used to service part of the principal and interest of the sector's debt, they were insufficient. So here is John Jidapo admitting that the argument about, he said the monies were applied to the sector, but the total amount that had accrued was insufficient to solve the problem. So it's not that the money has been used for something else, that's why there's doom. So he is saying that with the 45 billion, it is still woefully inadequate to solve the problems of the sector. So we shouldn't be demonizing things that are meant to give us some relief. If not, we will continue to suffer. In terms of the solution, I'm happy you were having very nice ideas that he has said. I share some of the ideas like property rate and the rest.
Exactly.
But as I have said on this platform, I will say everywhere, any tax is paid by the ordinary Ghanaian.
Exactly.
Any tax.
The final consumer.
Irrespective of where you pass it through, it will be paid by the Ghanaian. We are paying this energy sector levy because we are not paying the right tariffs for electricity. If the government decide that everybody must pay the right tariffs for electricity, there will be no tariffs on electricity to pay for that. So the issue is that we are running away from one problem and thinking that we can solve it another place. That is our problem. But if we explain to the Ghanaian that, look, whatever government needs to do, government is not into business. Government doesn't make profit. All government that is collect taxes from us, okay, and get money from our natural resources, which is royalties and whatever current interest and percentage we have, and they go for a loan. These are like three sources of revenue government will use to develop this country. And therefore, we must all accept that if we want this country to move forward, we must be ready to pay the necessary taxes. When we create this awareness, people understand. Then we will not have a lot of problems. In the Western world, Ibrahim knows in the UK, in America, and the amount of money you pay as taxes when you see your salary at the end of the month, you understand. Yeah. The amount you pay for utilities and the rest, when you look at the rate, you understand. Rent, you understand that a lot of people out there in Western can't even own their own houses like in Ghana, so they can go and buy land and build out. Yeah. You can't even afford the land over there before thinking about building your house. The rich and super are the ones who can make those kind of decisions. Yeah. So until we make the Ghanaian public understand that if we want government to work and work for us, we are the one who's supposed to finance the government. And we must finance government by paying the necessary taxes. Right. And if we don't have that understanding, we want to make tax a political policy, this is what will happen. Because when NDC campaigned against the previous government, in fact, Akubado did it in 2016. They canceled some taxes, and then we all were happy. Later, what happened? When the government was faced with revenue challenges, they had to bring in taxes, including e-levy. This is what Atufosi also did by cancelling Betty and the e-levy and the rest. All of a sudden, in the same budget, we had 4 new taxes. Less than 6 months into government, now we are having another tax on petrol. It is obvious that if we don't educate the Ghanaian to understand paying taxes is the way to finance a government, and we make government look like it is an entity that is making some supernormous profits from some huge business somewhere, and therefore we need not to pay, and that the government has enough resources to solve our problems, then we will still be where we are today. So if you talk about property tax, look at the rent rate in Accra. Everybody complains that rent is too expensive in Accra. Even this is the time that we are not just paying the rent tax, we are not paying the property tax, but we are all complaining that rent is so expensive. So today, property tax, which is something I love that must be enforced. Tomorrow, if it's enforced, the same Ghanaians will come at the government that you are making the cost of rent expensive. Yeah. By demanding that the tax should be paid, the property rate should be. Now the owner of the property now has included it in the cost for me. So now things have become too expensive. So you see, whichever way we introduce a tax, the one paying will complain. And in an environment where political parties find it expedient to use tax as a tool and condemn each other, you create the impression for the ordinary Ghanaian to believe that we don't need to pay a lot of taxes, and that the government has so much money sitting on somewhere that it can use to solve our problems. So, the moment we have this mindset, which is our mindset as of today, the government is so rich, so we don't need to pay. We don't need to pay. That's the point. Yeah. So the politician has made us to believe that you don't need to pay my taxes because the government can solve your problems without you paying much. And so long as we have this mindset, we should forget about solving our problem because the government has no money. As I said, it's through our taxes. Through what we make from our natural resources, whether it is royalties, whether it's carried interest, whether a percentage in any of the natural resources, that's where government comes from, money comes from. Aside that, government will go for loans and grants. These are the 3 sources where government can raise money. So here is the case, the loans and grants, we are complaining our debt is so high that government shouldn't borrow more money. Okay? We say our debt is too much, we shouldn't borrow. So you have sold that. Here we are, we also are not ready to pay more taxes. Our natural resources are largely in the hands of foreign corporations, and we owe as maybe 20-25% is what comes to us at the end of every day. So if you look at it, the last BOG report says our exports brought in about 10.5 billion. People were excited. I said, don't be excited. Look into it and what brought the money. Gold, cocoa, crude oil. They consume about 80% of that revenue. How many people are employed in the oil drilling? Because it's offshore. Okay. What percentage of that money comes to government of Ghana? Is the question we should be asking. So sometimes when we hear the huge figures, Ghana exports brought in 10 billion in 4 months. We are excited, but we don't look at the details. When you look at the details, you realize just a fraction of that money actually comes to the government of Ghana. And that's how it should be communicated. You see, when you throw the everybody thinks the government has money. Exactly. So I've always said that the way the government communicates is one problem. That you come and put it, BOG says government exported 10.5 billion. Ghana made 10.5 billion. The government has money. Meanwhile, about just 20 or 25% of that money goes to the government because Our naturals are in the hands of foreign corporations. And therefore, only the percentage and royalties that comes to us, 25-30% maximum is what comes to government of Ghana. The rest of that money is not our money. But we put it in our books and we announce it to the public and they believe that the government is rich. The government is not rich. So you see, when you look at it that way, then you look at, that's why when people are talking about city appreciation, why is the city appreciating? Because if it's the natural resources, it's not about productivity, that somebody is producing something here, we are exporting this and that are not related to natural resources, and therefore we have increased production, and then we have reduced import of chicken, we have reduced import of sugar, we have reduced import of rice. That is why the city is getting strong. Then when we are able to do that, then you are happy that the city is gaining strength based on real sectors of the economy. But if the gains are not based on real sectors of the economy, if it is not because we have reduced chicken imports because we are producing more, if it's not because we have reduced rice import because we are producing more. If it's not because of sugar import because we are producing more. If it's not because of all this
production
based and what really is the basis for that city appreciation? So that's why people are cautioning that once we are enjoying the benefit, we should know that the real factor, the rigidities of the economy have not been resolved. So let's tread cautiously. That's why when government is trumpeting the cities, the question is, can government really confirm to us that our rice production has increased and that we have cut production? What really we need to support it, we don't have. So you see, the way government communicates issues to us as a people makes us believe that the government is so rich that it doesn't need our money to solve our problems. So when they come to us asking us for money, then we will complain. But if the communication is that, look, government is a poor institution without financing from the people, and that if you want the government to be rich to solve your problems,
you need to pay.
You must finance the government because you are the one whose problem must be solved. But you have to give the money to government to solve it for you. So we must be ready to pay taxes. And that when the taxes are paid, this and this and this are what we use it for. It would have helped. E-levy, me, I had advised the government at the time that, look, the way they made e-levy to go into consolidation, I don't agree. If they had made e-levy, that e-levy, we are going to use it to finance Agenda 111. There's a particular paper. If the person sees the rest completed, he knows that the e-levy I've paid has been used to complete this. That's why we have Agenda 111. But when you trace taxes and all of them are just going to that animal called consolidated fund, and you can't pinpoint that the money has been used for this particular project, then people will ask that the money we are paid, where is it? Today people are asking that, okay, we pay e-levy, we don't know what the money has been used for, because the government has been able to pinpoint that the e-levy has gone to this and that. So you see, we need to have a whole refined way of communicating government policy, convincing people to understand why paying taxes and levies is actually our responsibility and duties. And then when we are able to accept this as a people, then when we pay, then we can actually say something is being done. And then the issue also is about accountability. When monies are paid and they hear about one corruption here, somebody has misapplied this, then the person says, why am I paying when people are misapplying the money? Look, the government of Ghana, whether NPP or this, let's take one thing. Until we take a strong position on these power plants and make sure that this pay or take agreement, we do something about it, we can never solve the energy sector debt. Because the amounts that money is generating, I told you 2017 to 2023, government of Ghana paid 13 billion for power that we didn't use, but we have to pay for. VRA now has the expertise in managing power plants. If government of Ghana has to reinvest in VRA and build our own generation plant, VRA is one of the most efficient institutions in this country. The thermal plants that Ghana has procured for them, they have managed it and managed it well up to today. If we have to finance VRA to own a lot of power plants, that will make sure that we are not paying capacity charges, so that when this contract that are there exits, we will not be forced to renew. That is the only way we can deal with this power crisis. But for now,
thank you.
We cannot solve this problem with these capacity charges in this contract. It is really inimical to all of us.
Thank you. From energy sector crisis, we have a looming health crisis as well. The Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association are on strike. I think today is day 6, and from today they are going to withdraw all services. And this portends a health crisis, and if nothing is done about it as soon as possible, we will not be hearing good news from tomorrow. Patients are going to bear the brunt. Doctors are already overburdened. Now we know rotational nurses have been called in to help, but these persons do not have the qualification to work without supervision. Where do we go from here? Negotiations, engagements, what's the way forward?
It's clear. government is fast tracking its way to losing control. And it's important to compare. You see, we have a social contract with nurses and doctors or the health care workers. We cannot always say, go back to work, people's lives at risk. We cannot do that to them or hold them to ransom. And what government has failed to do, I'm talking the NDC government has failed to do, is to engage in meaningful dialogue.
Right.
It's clear that there has been a kind of intransigent attitude between government and the healthcare workers. Unless you ask them, what steps has government taken to accommodate your concerns and properly address them? And the answer you'll find is none. It's not in my mouth to say it. The nurses and doctors are saying it.
Yeah.
They didn't just say, we're not working. A lot of nurses and doctors who take the Hippocratic oath, they do so sincerely from the bottom of their hearts.
Right.
They do so sincerely. But when you are being pushed to the point that you cannot make ends meet, and how did we get here so quickly? I'm talking from December to now.
Yeah.
Between 2017 and 2024, we had the same legitimate concerns or requests from the medical sector. And they were addressed because you gave, when I say you, the government of Akufo-Addo gave that space whereby their legitimate concerns were listened to. And where necessary, they were addressed properly.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here, we can all Google and do strikes between 2017 and 2024. Do it before I finish my submission. I'm talking to Ghanaians. And you'll get the results. Then you see that, no, it's about having a listening government. Even though you know that there are demands on the economy, there are some critical areas where you have to address it. I'm not saying that, likewise, nurses and doctors can hold government to ransom. As for us, you know that without us, everything will collapse. So we're going to ask for X, Y, Z increments. And that is not the case. They reason and they discuss and they negotiate properly. I'm talking the health sector. And we saw that throughout the last 8 years or so. So we have to question the Minister of Health and the Minister of Finance and indeed the President himself and saying, why have you let it get this far?
You see, the problem is built up over time. Yeah. This collective agreement that they are demanding implementation of was signed in May 2024 under the Akufo-Addo government. Sure. So why are we here?
What you find is that indeed the lack of, how can I call it, Nana Tufo, the lack of engagement. Signed in 2024, why didn't they go to strike in June, July, August, September, October, November, December of 2024? Understand that, because nobody is a fool. There's no way the nurses and doctors would allow the government of Akufo-Addo just to kick the can down the road. There was proper interventions along that timeline. Because when you know you're being hoodwinked, you won't wait until, what do you call it, December to say we're going on strike. So it's about engagement. And when you fail to do that, that's where you have this particular problem that you're having. And government is being intransigent. They're being like, no, either take it or leave it. And that kind of bargaining strategy will never work. Understand the constraints that you may have as a government, okay? But then understand the constraints that healthcare workers also have as well. Because I'm sure by the end of the year, we will look at certain acts of profligacy that this government is presently engaging in. Right now, you can't see it. And if I sit here now and I cite some examples, they say we're doing politics with it. And I don't want to do politics with it.
Right.
I want to provide leadership to the issue and give something constructive for government to understand and look at. Because OPD, outpatients departments, are going on strike. That's when you have an accident. There, no, you need assistance.
Yeah.
There's no health worker to assist you at all. That means we're back to that, the era of cash and carry. Again, created under NDC. You know, this resetting that they're talking about is rather repackaging of hardship. They are not resetting. They are repackaging hardship. And Ghanaians need to understand that. We need to let them know. Your reset, what does reset mean? For things to go back where they were. Am I right? In a positive sense.
Yeah.
So what are you doing? Are things going back where they were? You have repackaged hardship. Right now, the 1 cedi levy that we talked about, watch for inflation to skyrocket. And then see how production will go down.
Right.
And when production goes down, and then there's further pressures, then the doomsday returns.
Yeah.
So you are rather, instead of resetting John Dramani Mahama, you are repackaging hardship. And Ghanaians need to really, really stand up for their rights. Regardless of who you voted for in 2024, speak out now. Ngawake Fa Ogbing. Speak up. Raise your voice. Make your voice heard, Ghanaians. Because if you play your politics and say, Enyeshri, Efenoko, they are the ones enjoying. We've seen Sami Jamfi doling out dollars. Do you receive some of the dollars? And you're busy going online defending what is indefensible. I'm talking to the NDC people specifically. Likewise to people in MPP. Don't rejoice of the difficulties that we are facing, because if my daughter, my son, my wife, my mom, my brother, or my friend is in hospital, this is not the time for me to rejoice. Somebody close to me can die.
Yeah.
So again, MPP, this is not the time to say, hey, John Mahama, you messed up. Again, no. Try, and I'm talking online now, because now we are all actors. We are all politicians online. Everybody's voice is heard. Use your voice, whether MPP or NDC, to give constructive criticism, so this government will listen and understand that there are certain priorities that you have to put your money to.
Very well.
Instead of giving money to Agrada, give it rather to the nurses and doctors. Now, Brian, that's a low blow. It's not a low blow. Yeah, it's not a low blow.
I'm not sure the dollars given to
Agrada but you get my point. But you get my point. Right. I said last time, and I don't want to go off topic. The fact that he was filmed, do you think he's the only person in NDC doing it? So the whole NDC apparatus, Sami Jamfi is the only one giving dollars. We should really think better.
Very well.
So John Dramani Mahama and Ghanaians, let us tackle certain issues that come with a non-partisan but a national interest agenda.
Right.
Critique, no need to insult,
right,
so that they will wake up from this doomsday that they're about to put us in.
Very well. Thank you very much. Elvis, I'll come to you, but let me take a quick break here. When I come back, Elvis Darko, editor of the News Center newspaper, will speak to us on the matter of the strike by the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association. Stay with us. This is Breakfast Daily here on Channel One Television. Grateful that you stayed on with us. This is the news review segment on Breakfast Daily here on Channel One Television. We have the editor of the News Center newspaper, Elvis Darko, here, and we have the former Assistant Secretary, Office of the former President, Ibrahim Ajay, also here. Nurses are on strike, and the health sector is reeling under the impact of the strike. What does it look for us going forward? What can be done? I'll go to Elvis since Ibrahim has had a take on it. The nurses at this point have taken an entrenched position. They say no more negotiations. They want an implementation of the collective agreement signed last year. What we're made to understand is that there was a court issue that delayed the implementation. However, this year, January, a ruling was made that paved way for implementation. Letters have been sent to Health Ministry. Nurses insist that whatever is entailed in the agreement is known by all parties. And so implementation now or strike. I mean, should we go to the table with these entrenched positions? And if so, how do we make progress? Elvis?
Well, I think we always say government is continuous. The fact that it's a new government does not mean that that agreement did not have the input of the Ministry of Health. The Ministry of Health has not changed.
Yeah. It
is maybe the minister or one or two people who have changed. But the ministry as an institution knows that this is the agreement that has been reached, because it's the ministry that is the employing agency. And if they had agreed this agreement with the institution and it's not being implemented, the people are asking for implementation. I don't think that there's anything wrong with asking for implementation.
Right.
See, dialogue should always be important. I read Thursday that there was the government went to court and got an injunction for 10 days.
Yeah. And
they said you can force people to the riverside, a horse to the riverside, but you can't force it to drink the water. You can use a court injunction to force nurses to go to work. But if they feel within them that the problem, what they are complaining about, they are so passionate about it, and you are using court to force them, they can report to work. But then doing of the work actually could be a different thing altogether.
They actually say they've not received or had notice of this injunction, so
So
they are still on
I
strike.
think that it's important to dialogue. And unions are also advised that anytime there's a change of government, we should know that the new government is definitely going to tell us that there's a change of government because things are not well. And therefore they are trying to put this in place. And therefore they will need some time. So for me, if a government comes to power and within the first 6 months, state institutions are declaring strike, I am uncomfortable with it. Because the government itself is yet to settle down fully. So sometimes when a strike of this nature are declared, within the first 6 months of a new government, it's a bit uncomfortable for me. Even when health professionals are fighting government or other state institutions are fighting government, those who suffer are the ordinary people. The whole of last week, you followed people and they tell you they have been to the hospital, they've waited for hours, some had to leave because they believe that you never get to their turn. The point is, the ordinary Ghanaian who is seeking health care, what is his role in the whole issue that that person is the one that must suffer? Because the government is sitting there, is not suffering from you not going to work. But the ordinary Ghanaian who need the health care is the one that is suffering. And therefore, such strikes impact the ordinary persons more than the people who are holding positions. And so I always say that these strikes are very difficult for society. But see, I think some of the things that people are demanding, I don't see anything wrong with it. Okay? They say they want fuel. There are so many public servants at the ministries where there's so much inefficiency. There are several staff at several levels who are entitled to fuel. So why can't nurses at certain levels also get their fuel? The other one, if they have a car, there should be car maintenance allowance. Others get it paid. Other institutions get paid. So why is that nurses could not get it? They're asking for professional development, which other people, everything they are asking for
Already exists.
exists in other states institutions. So why is it that we think that for nurses alone, we should be going through this?
But it's the timing right. Is the government in a position to provide all these?
That's what I said, that is the government, their own campaign messages and their rhetoric is what hurts them. Because if you are in opposition, you create the impression that once you come, all problems will be solved. The expectation is high. But as I said, if we make Ghanaians understand that this and this and these things will take a longer time to resolve, then the expectation of the Ghanaian will also be measured. So sometimes when public sector workers are holding politicians accountable, I think that I back them, because sometimes the way the politician will tell you the solution he has, how he's going to solve your problem overnight, then you have the right to also go and demand an answer overnight. Because I think that, you see, if you have looked at condition of service of public sector, there's a huge lot of disparities, okay? Especially if you compare to something like the security services, okay? If a nurse who has worked for 10 years, if you compare her salary to a soldier who has worked for 10 years, the nurse salary is about half of what the soldier who has worked for 10 years is taking. Same way if you compare to police. So you ask yourself that, why is it that you think that the soldier or the police is so important than the nurse?
Than the nurse, yeah.
Do you understand it? That's the basic question. And the most intriguing aspect also is that one will say the nurses are engaged in life-saving situations. And the public is engaged with them on daily basis. So why is that people who go through all this will be earning half of what the very people they entered a government institution with at the same time? So if a soldier is recruited in 2010 and you also recruited as a nurse in 2010, by 10 years' time, the nurse's salary is about half of what the soldier or the policeman is taking. The policeman or soldier has been provided free accommodation by the state, but the nurse doesn't have free accommodation. The soldier and the police get free medical treatment. The nurse who is giving medical does not have free medical treatment when he's sick or the family is sick. So clearly, if you look at the things that these nurses are complaining about, look, the state has no reason to even go to court to say that they should be injected for 10 days. I think that the state should find the money and pay. Look, we can't continue this. These security services are on cap 30. When they retire, they give huge sums of money to them as retirement package. The nurse and the teacher and the rest are not on cap 30. They are on SNIT. When they go on retirement, they don't get that kind of huge money as retirement package.
Monthly payments.
So the way we are treating a section of public sector workers It is totally unfair, unacceptable. And I think that these nurses have a case. Nobody should be using the court to intimidate anybody. We should rather resort to dialogue. But this issue of I've gone to court to inject somebody for 10 days and the rest.
Of this dialogue, because one fear that may exist is that if these demands are met by the government, a different association or union is also going to rise and make similar demands.
If they have genuine case,
placing a burden on government.
If they have genuine case, why not? Are they not working? Or are they all not working for the same state?
Yes,
so if people feel that they are being
compromised,
no, if you are working for the same state, the government of Ghana, and you feel that compared to your counterparts in other institutions, you are being unfairly treated, why shouldn't you complain? Why shouldn't you fight for yourself? As I said, the nurse who is providing medical care to us, when he or she is sick or the family is sick, is not entitled to free medical care. But the soldier or the policeman is entitled to free medical care. The nurse has no rent or accommodation allowance. The soldier or the police has free accommodation. Right. And so why are we thinking that a section of the public sector deserves better than another? We are all working for the same employer. So we must all be given a fair treatment, equal treatment before. Because my employer is not different from the employer of the other person. So why is that the same employer want to treat me this way and treat the other person another way? If a soldier is entitled to accommodation, a nurse is also entitled to accommodation. So why is it that you want to deny them if they are asking for it? And then the argument is that if you give it to another, if you are treating the other people unfair, they also have the right to demand. Right. You see, look, the problem is that we have still not been able to solve the inefficiencies in our payroll system in this country. You see, Ghanaian workers were all on a certain pension scheme, okay? And then the Ronalds government said, oh, they think that this is costing the government too much. So they want to migrate and they set up Senate. Everybody should be on Senate. At the end of the day, they brought in a system that favors a certain group of people. They said, these people will not be on the Senate. They should still remain on Cap 30 and get huge sums of money as pension when they retire. And then the politicians also saw it, and they also created Article 71 for themselves and said, okay, if the security agency and other preferred organizations, there are about 6 organizations, they are not on Senate in this country, but they are all paid by the same government. And when they retire, they carry huge sums of money home for retirement package. And the rest of the public sector are on Senate. When you retire, they say, government is not paying it, go to Senate and go and find out your contribution. Any amount is where Senate will pay you. And then the politicians also created Article 71 for themselves. If this group of people are being treated this way, we will also not join the Senate. We will also be on Article 71. So if we want a proper system to work, everybody should be on the same pay scale. Okay? If we think it's Senate, whether Article 71 should be cancelled, Cap 30 should be cancelled. Let's put everybody on Senate. If you think Cap 30 is what is best, then remove everybody from Senate and put everyone on Cap 30. Right. But you can't put some people on Cap 30, and when they retire, they have a huge sum, and the people who are taking huge sum home at the end of their service are the very people who have accommodation allowance, rent allowance, health. They don't pay electricity, they get free healthcare. They are the ones who are going to get all these things whilst in service, and when they retire, they are the ones who still make big money. They are the ones who retire on their salary at a certain level. Health doctors, which specialists retire on his or her salary in this country, in terms of a medical doctor. Which of them retire on their salary? But there are other people who retire on their salary. So why is that? We are all working for the same government, and then we are being given different treatment. When we also believe that what we are doing is also very critical to the state. So I believe that until we take the firm decision that either everybody will be on Cap 30 or everybody should go on state Senate, this protest will continue irrespective of which government that will be in power, because it cannot be an animal kingdom, animal farm thing where some people are treated better than the others. We are all working for the same employer, and it shouldn't be the case. And so I support the nurses, and I think that it's better government listen to them. If government say it doesn't have the money, say I will pay, but I don't have the money now. Give me maybe 3 or 4 months when I mobilize myself and I think I'm getting resources. Let it be an arrears that government will pay. I believe that if government even says, we have signed, we are going to pay as an arrears, but as a new government, we don't have money now. So maybe give us up the end of the year. But then when the year ends and we enter January 26, all the arrears that were accrued this year, by the time we really fine-tune our act and we know that this is where we are getting revenue from, this is what the situation is, we know that there's a backlog, we'll find the money and we'll pay. I believe that the money is not coming immediately, but the government says, we are signing the collective bargaining agreement. We can't pay immediately. Give us up to the end of the year. By January, we'll pay all the arrears to you. I believe that it will sound better to these nurses. But the actual refusal to sign, and they're going to court to use court to compel them, I think that the government strategy is wrong, and they should rethink it.
Very well, very well. A few messages have come in here, which messages I believe will take us back to our previous conversation. But let me just read them all together. This one says, the News Center editor is wrong with collateralization. Collateralization is akin to your Busiahene family head mortgaging the family cocoa farm for a loan that will be paid in 15 years' time. He consumes the money in 3 years' time and dies in the 4th year. Where does he expect the family to pay that debt? He says we are partisan more than patriotic to Mother Ghana. Okay, Rexford from Ashoman is the one making this accusation. This one says, good morning, please. Kindly let Mr. Ibrahim know that some tenants are living with their landlords and are having separate electricity meters. So how many property tax is going to be paid on such single property? Very well. Again, the claim made by Ibrahim Ajay regarding the property rate is incorrect. Assuming that 4 million meters equates to collecting property rates from 4 million households is misleading. Property rates are levied based on buildings or apartments, many of which contain multiple units or individual rooms, each with its own meter. Ibrahim Ajay, okay, this one is for you. This one is asking if the NDC is represented on this platform. Yes, an invitation was sent, confirmation was made. We are not sure yet why the NDC representative did not make it or has yet not shown up. So that's it. He believes that the panelists are throwing dust in the eyes of Ghanaians, talking about pay or take agreements by previous government, which led to mounting debt, yet evaded the take or pay contracts the MPP signed. Okay, this is also from Rexford. And Bright Cramper, University of Ghana, says, indeed, Ghanaians, we have seen that competency is not about talking and making noise in opposition. Ghanaians are now facing the so-called doomsday levy imposed by the NDC government, an 8.33% charge per litre that affects everyone except his government appointees. Unlike the Nanado Bawumia administration, which kept the lights on for 8 years without such taxes, the NDC now owes the NPP and Ghanaians an apology for their past accusation. Okay. Rexford is here again saying these panelists are debating as if the problems of Ghana just started with the Mahama government. Where were these suggestions when Nanado's government used the courts to suppress workers' protests? Couldn't the Nanado government have rationalized the public sector salaries in the 8 years? Let's be honest in our submissions. Okay, so I'll give you a minute each to respond to the ones that came to you. Elvis, yours is on collateralization. He believes that if a Busiahene mortgages the family cocoa farm and chops the money in 3 years, dies in the 4th year, how does he expect us to pay for the 15-year loan?
I think they have to listen when we are talking. Because I made a point that at vetting, John Jinapo admitted that the 45 billion that was collected was applied to pay principal and interest of the sector's debts. John Jinapo said that part of that money has been misapplied.
Right.
So the argument is making, it doesn't come in here because the confirmation is that the money has actually been used and applied to the energy sector, but it is insufficient.
Right.
That's what John Jinapo said.
Right.
I'm not the one saying it. So if they are listening to us, they shouldn't be choosing and picking. They should listen to us in full.
Yeah.
The argument that we are making all this argument because it is Mahama government can't be true. We are not saying this thing in relation to only the Mahama government. We are saying government of Ghana. That's the point I made.
Yeah.
That governments cannot treat people differently. I'm not saying that the Mahama government. And when people hear government, they should know that political parties will come and rule and go, but government is one institution that will be there forever.
Yeah.
So when we make the reference the word government, we are not saying that everything we are saying is in reference to just the Mahama government. We are talking about the government of Ghana.
Very well. Ibrahim, on the taxation issue that you raised, I think I want to agree. If there's a property with different apartments in that same property, different meters for different occupants of the different apartments within that same property, how does your proposed system work?
Well, my proposal, it remains the same. Remove the figures. I'm talking about how we can effectively collect property tax.
Yeah.
So don't, is it Rexford? I would want Rexford not to get confused with the grammar. Go to the substance. What am I talking about? How we can effectively collect taxes, which by law should be collected. It's not a new tax.
Yeah.
Okay. We have a shortfall of about 3.6 billion.
Yeah.
I gave you the figure in the system. I'm speaking so we can all jaw an idea. I understand the point about the 4 million. Let's say there's only 3 million because some are duplicate. 3 times 900 that I said, 900 property rate per year. 9 threes are 27. That's 2.7 billion cedis.
Yeah.
We are not collecting. And the idea I'm giving government is, look, you know the rates. So apply it to the meters. Now, let's understand something. Property tax is to be paid by the landlord, not the tenant. So when somebody builds, they need to do what? Get a permit to build.
Right.
So we have at some stage of that building being erected, we've captured the owner of that building. Am I right?
Yeah.
And generally, the electricity meter is in the name of the landlord, generally.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying that it's an idea, Rexford. I'm giving you an opportunity for us to work and see, can we capture this leaking revenue that nobody collects? You just quickly apply to the electricity meter, principally of the landlord.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
That's why I reduced it from 4 million meters to even 3 million meters. Times 900 is 2.7 billion cedis. When you apply it, now the landlord has to pay bit by bit. And there are many ways you can do this.
Right.
Once we know that the landlord, you can even leave out the meter, but I don't want us to,
Right.
and momo him or her directly as a charge. But the electricity meter is the best way. If it happens that a tenant has paid on behalf of the landlord, because sometimes the landlord is absent, he or she doesn't even live in the region,
Yeah.
never mind the area. I am a tenant. I have paid your property tax through my electricity meter. You have the right, you the tenant, to surcharge the landlord, and the government will give you that, or GRA, because GRA collects it.
Yeah.
That right to say that the next rent, you can reduce it
Exactly.
by the 900 that you paid on behalf of the landlord.
Very well.
We can all think, I'm not saying my solution is a catch-all, but it's an idea. Let's start somewhere, how we can easily collect taxes and make sure that government has the revenue to avoid putting us back into dimso and making sure inflation goes up.
Very well. Thank you very much.
And let me add, you see, when we are talking, we are making proposals, it doesn't mean that we say that automata must be done. There are suggestions we are making.
Exactly.
There are experts in this thing who can sit down.
True.
For instance, Obiami would prefer meters. But I have said every building needs to have a land registration document. And now that the Lands Commission has been digitized, collecting property rates through the land is easy because you know who actually owns that land on which the building is situated.
Yeah.
What will also happen is that it means that the government will have to work further to make sure that every building that is not registered with the Lands Commission is also registered. Do you know the amount of revenue you are actually going to generate to make sure that you go around to make sure that unregistered lands on which people build are also registered? Do you know how much money you are going to make? There are so many buildings in Accra here that have no documentation. The people build without the amount they have indenture from the chief that have given you this land. They don't go to Lands Commission, they don't have any, they are built and they are living there. So they are not actually paying even ground rent, which every building is supposed to pay in a year. They are not even paying. So it means that there are opportunities in the system that we can explore and make more money. There's a lot of money that should go to government that is in the pocket of Ghanaians that we are not paying because the state is not making sure that it's doing the right thing in certain areas. And once the state decides to do the right thing in those areas, you make money. And you must understand, property rate is not flat. Property rate depends upon the location, how the premium locations pay more.
The value of the property.
So do you know how much people will be paying in East Airport property? East Legon, Cantonment, places that we know that the rich and powerful stay now.
Areas.
Do you know how much people pay there? We will pay there if we are to enforce property rate. And because they are rich and they have to pay higher, you are going to make more money from them than even the poor that you are looking at. You understand? So some of these things, it's about us looking at the opportunities that are in there, how we can exploit it to make money. I have said if I am a GRA, every year I will take for 10,000 national service people. All I will deploy them is to assemblies, and they are responsible to wake up every morning and go around and collect properties rate because they are paid national service from public money. Okay, so once we provide the means of transport for them to go to the and demand property rate, which is not paid in cash, but it's paid through a direct online platform that goes through to government revenue. I can tell you that GRA will look the money they will make in a year from property rate by just making sure that the money we are using to pay national service every month, the money now is generating revenue for the state because these people are now at assemblies and are being used to enforce payment of property rates.
Yeah.
So there are so many ways we can collect property rate. Why do we have people finish school, they want national service? Some of them don't even get placement for national service. So if we can let them collect money for the state, what do we lose? Now we have a Ghana card system which has biometric database. There's a lot of things we can do with data that can generate a lot of money for us. So you see, we are saying that there are ways government can generate money, that the pain will not be like putting it on fuel for everybody to feel it. Because tomorrow, if this transport union decided that the reduction they've done in fares, they are bringing it back, it means that we are back to ground zero.
Exactly.
It means that every gain we think we are going to make from the city appreciation because fuel prices have gone down, drivers want the increase, everything is going. And it is surprising that those who have not actually reduced yet, the moment there's an increase in transport fare, they're actually going to increase their produce in the market.
Exactly. Yeah.
So the ordinary Ghanaian is not actually going to benefit from the city appreciation if we take policies that take us back. At least we should be enjoying the benefit
there's the
from
informal
this
sector.
You understand?
The population of the informals will remain untaxed.
No, because that's what I'm saying. If we want to formalize the informal sector, there are so many ways we can do it.
Exactly.
There's so many.
We need to be innovative in our approach.
The Minister of Finance, should know that a lot of these small shops can't pay their due because they don't have bookkeeping. Why can't the Minister of Finance say, I'm looking for 2,000 people who are done accounting and rent and investors. We want to put them on the ground to go and help these small shops to keep their books. Show them how bookkeeping is done. And when they keep their books well, they say pay 100 cedis a month. The person know that this is how much I sold, this is my profit margin, is keeping the books. And you are helping the person to understand that keeping your books is not only good for paying taxes. So if tomorrow you need to go to some government facility for some government grant or something, it is that well bookkeeping that will help you. If you want to go to any bank for any loan for something, your bookkeeping will help you.
Very quickly, Brazil and Turkey. I'm using two examples. The informal sector. In the informal sector, every seller it's paid through the digital space. Imagine every cocoa seller. By law, you can only pay them with your Momo. So when I pay you, government sees the transaction and removes this 1 cedi. So can you imagine the volume of revenue we will get? These are the things that we need to do.
We need to be innovative in our approach. But thank you so much, gentlemen. Elvis Dapo, editor of the News Center newspaper, Ibrahim J, former assistant secretary office of the former president. We were expecting an NDC rep. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it. I am Nanatu Boateng. Many thanks for your time. Stay with us here on Breakfast Daily. There's a lot more on the show for you.